It's not only an important part of your wealth, I think it's also an important part of making this new financial system. Bitcoin is one of the few things that people trust a lot. In a world where people don't trust much, the blockchain is very safe. So I think it's inevitable that Bitcoin will reach 200,000. I think it will happen this year. So there's still a lot of good things that could happen. Looks like there are 4 or 5 lines behind Bitcoin. All of those are pointing up right now because we know that the Fed is dovish next year, even though they're on hold. Bitcoin already prices in that, which is a good sign. In other words, Tom Lee says Bitcoin will reach $200,000 0 cents per coin. If Bitcoin goes up another 2 times its current price, I think XRP's price could go up anywhere from 5 to 10 times its current value. This depends on how much money comes into altcoins this holiday season. XRP would be at the top of the list, a little more than $20 0 cents a coin. So that's why I'm showing you this video today. I believe that a price of $20 0 cents for XRP is a good guess for when this bull run will end. Of course, it's also possible that we'll reach a maximum price of around $10 0 cents per coin, which I'm also ready for. But even so, if you buy XRP today for $2 0 cents, $30 0 cents, or 40 cents, and it goes up to $10 0 cents or $20 0 cents, there's a lot of potential there, of course, and that's why I want to go into more detail about what Tom Lee is talking about with Bitcoin, what this means for XRP, and how this information could help a lot of people, including you. Let's talk about it in more detail with Tom Lee. Let's start with some fresh information I've never given you before. We have been in favor of Bitcoin. It's important to us. Bitcoin fits in well with both our millennials theme and our safety theme. If you are older and don't trust Bitcoin, that makes sense. A lot of millennials use Bitcoin. They also work well if you believe the old banking system. However, it is only meant for rich Americans. Large banks, on the other hand, are starting to include Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in the digital money they accept. Stablecoins are going to be a big part of the crypto world, and almost all of the big banks are trying to get into the stablecoin game. Look at how BlackRock bought 10% of Circle today. Do I believe Bitcoin is significant? Yes. It will now be an asset of the government. That means that even S&P 500 companies will have some coin. Yes, I agree that we want to be connected with the right companies that deal with Bitcoin. I mean, JP Morgan is a grandmother shot, but it will finally be exposed to Bitcoin too. I mean, it's clear that MicroStrategy is a pure play. Of course, Robinhood is really just the new Morgan Stanley. Hi Tom, in your video you talked about the all-time high for Bitcoin as a leading sign for the S&P. If Bitcoin keeps hitting price goals of $250,000 0 cents or more, do you think this link will continue, or do you think it will eventually break? That is a great question. Yes, I think you should not try to find a comparison between the price of Bitcoin and the price of the S&P 500. That's not the relationship we're talking about. Instead, we're saying that Bitcoin is very dependent on how liquid the market is around the world and how willing buyers are to take risks. Let's say that there is liquidity from central banks around the world and buyers are willing to take risks. And then there are Bitcoin's basics, which are wallet adoption and action per wallet. I would add a fourth point. Institutions are starting to use Bitcoin. This means that governments, pension funds, and the budget are getting more involved. It looks like there are 4 or 5 lines behind Bitcoin. These all point to the upside right now. We already know that the Fed will be dovish next year, even though they are on hold right now. This is good news for Bitcoin. So I think Bitcoin will get to 200,000, and I expect it to happen this year. That means there's still a lot of upside, as Mark said. That means there's still a lot of upside on Ethereum, but I don't think the S&P will double from here. If Bitcoin gets to $250 0 cents, the S&P seems to be going up a lot. I mean, the S&P going up to 6,600 is a big change. That would really shock most people, because Mark and I know that when we talk to our big investor clients, most of them are being cautious. They don't trust this gathering at all. They believe that this is a bear market rise that could end at the old highs or lead to new lows. But I'm not sure. Mark, what do you think? I'm hopeful about Bitcoin's growth and what it can do this year. It's hard for me to say right now that it will go straight to 250. The price has gone up a lot since April. So I think there needs to be some kind of consolidation. I don't want to be too pessimistic, but I do think that sometime in late June or early July, there might be some kind of consolidation. You know, the log charts were still pretty positive at that point. And it's okay to look at things like these that are worth so much money. And if you connect the high points from 2017 to 2021, you can see that it gets close to 275 to 285 at its highest point. So, you know, I think that would be a reasonable goal for it to reach in the end. But to say it goes there right away this year. I put out the start of the year 135 to 150. I'm still going with 150. I believe that to be likely. A more specific technical goal could be reached if it goes above that. This would rely on the type of consolidation we see, which is likely to happen in late June or early July. I do like it and own it, though I would just keep an eye on how strong Bitcoin is compared to other cryptocurrencies, because other things like Ethereum might start to gain popularity. Right now, Ethereum is almost strong enough to break long-term trends against Bitcoin, which I find interesting as it starts to gain strength. As you know, the S&P fell sharply because people were afraid of Tariff Liberation Day. It went down like a waterfall. This kind of waterfall drop has been found 18 times since 1900 by our team. For those who have been following us, you know that we've been asking for that waterfall drop to end with a V-shaped recovery. The markets would not stay flat for the rest of the year, nor would they take a square root. Instead, they would rise quickly and reach new highs. It does that 17 out of 18 times when there is a waterfall drop. That's exactly what happened. We're back to our all-time highs now. That may make you wonder if stocks will only go up to their old highs and stop there. We don't agree with that. We think the market is in a better place now than it was when we hit our old highs in February. This is because tax cuts and less government control are coming. When it comes to tariffs, we know a lot more about them now. They seem to have more bark than bite, and businesses passed a stress test. If you pass a stress test, you'll get a multiple growth. I think S&P can get to 6,600 by the end of the day. That would be in line with the idea that the market will basically go up from April 7th on. It's starting to happen again. A lot of the liquidity that recently came back into Bitcoin and helped it go above $110,000, 0 cents per coin, is now coming back into altcoins. This is something I talked about in one of my previous videos. Most of the last few days, XRP has been going up. These are the daily charts for XRP. They show a small V form. Based on the weekly charts, it looks like we'll keep going in that direction and maybe even hit new highs this time. Wow, that's really cool. That makes me really happy. I believe that XRP will soon be able to test $2.40 per coin. That is also supported by the weekly stochastic RSI. I bought XRP near the bottom right here after we hit a high on this day because of that. That's exactly what I'm going to do again. As you can see, I have a position down here that's up about 9% right now. There's a very small amount of my overall futures balance being used for that, and I'm about to open up a lot more trades that I want you guys to be able to see for free. I believe we've gained between 200